there, my name's Gill Tiney. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me, we all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome. Take my glasses off now. Welcome to Collaboration Global and the podcast Being Human. And I'm delighted to say that my guest, Sue Plumtree, is joining us today. She's one of our newer members in Collaboration Global, and it is an absolute joy to have you with us today, Sue. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, for asking me. Thank you.
It's been absolute a joy. Every time I see you, so one of the lovely things about you is you light up the room. You have this beautiful smile, and you come in and your energy is just like, we all want to give you a hug. And in these,
I love hugs.
Me too. And in this day and age, hugs are not the great thing to do, is it really? It's with coronavirus on the horizon. Well, it's that fine line between being sensible, which can be a bit boring, and actually, so I'm going to give you a virtual hug now. That's safe.
Yes,
we can do that. So what I'd like to ask first and foremost is how did you find out about Collaboration Global, and what drew you to us, and what made you kind of decide that you wanted to get involved with what we're doing?
As a businesswoman, I've been looking at networks for forever, really. And one of the things that I found about them is that you have to give a 60-second presentation telling everybody how wonderful you are. There's no weakness, no vulnerability.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pretense, I find. And then Rihanna Avis, she invited me.
Yeah.
And she said, it's an experience like you've never had before. And I said, I can't wait. And it was the 27th of November last year.
That's lovely.
And I remember feeling, I'm home.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm home. This is where I belong.
So you don't miss the 60-second presentations and the the sort of, hey, I'm fine, this is my business, I'm amazing. It quite wears thin after a while, doesn't it? When people... So tell us a little bit more about you from the point of view of the woman we see in front of us is all glowing and all happy and lovely, and potentially from an outsider looking in, oh, Sue's got it sus, she's got it all sorted, she knows what she's doing. But I get the impression from conversations we've had in the past that it wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't.
Tell us a little bit about, where did you start? Where were you born? What were your family like? What were your experiences as a youngster? What did you want to do when you were 8 years old? What was your dream? What were you going to grow up to be? I was going to grow up and be Julie Andrews. That was my plan.
Yes. Okay. I was born in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. My parents were from Austria-Hungary.
Right.
My dad was a journalist, my mom a dental assistant, and they met in Prague. And they fell in love.
Well, who wouldn't in Prague? It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Passionately in love. 50 years they were married.
Oh, wow.
And I always wanted a marriage just like theirs.
Yeah.
They fled Prague just before the invasion of the Nazis. And that's why they landed in Buenos Aires. People scattered all over the world. In fact, and I think this is relevant in some ways, they first hid in the jungles of Bolivia.
Oh, wow.
Because they didn't know how the war was going to pan out.
Yeah.
So there were other refugees and the indigenous population. And my parents found employment in, it was called the Yacimientos Petrolíferos Fiscales de Bolivia.
Right.
Is the government oil.
Okay.
Yeah. And they found things to do. My dad became an electrician, a handyman. My mom, who had never cooked in her life, cooked for the men. Screwed up a lot of the times. She was going to make a cake once, she told me, and it was all kind of floppy, so she called it something else. And then they loved it.
Inventive. I love it.
So basically, they were in danger. They had to be creative. They had to be resourceful and survive.
Yeah.
But that's not how they brought me up at all. They brought me up. My dad told me that I had to listen to him always, given his greater experience of life.
Mm.
He did things for me that he should never have done. For example, he actually, I wanted to break up with this young man, and I told him, can he do it for me? And he did. I mean,
Wow.
I was, it was impressed upon me not to put my head above the parapet,
Right.
not to wash my dirty linen in public, to keep my head down at all times, and particularly the issue of being middle class. My dad always said that we are better
Okay.
because we're middle class. People used to tip
Oh.
their hats to us. We had a maid. We
Oh.
were somebody.
Right. So you had a reputation to uphold as a family, which is why you
Yes,
had to keep your head
but
down
I
and
never understood it.
no.
I didn't get it. To my dad's distress, I didn't get it.
Oh dear. Were you a bit naughty?
Not about, so now I'm blogging about my life, how I screwed up. I wash my dirty linen in public. I share, you know,
He would be shocked, wouldn't he?
he would. Well, or maybe now he probably would be proud of me
Of
now.
course, yeah.
But, I don't think I've ever said this before, but it's not when you succeed that you need the support, it's when you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But he was dead against. He decided I was going to be a secretary
Okay.
because I was, good with languages. So in
Right.
Argentina, Spanish, in a German school. It was their dream, not mine, to
Yeah.
come to England and
Wow.
learn English so that I could be highly desirable on the job market when I got back. But that's not how it panned out.
Okay.
I met Jim
Mm-hmm.
and became Mrs. Plumtree,
Very English
and
name.
and I stayed, and I
Yeah.
stayed. Mm,
So did they go back?
never. Well,
Oh,
only for a little visit,
visit. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
for nothing else. But
Mm.
it's and I was married for 37 years, and from the moment I met him, I started making all the mistakes in the book.
Oh,
I was very insecure,
yeah.
and I did I tell you how I met him?
No, no. Tell us the story.
Okay, so I arrived in England on the 13th of July 1965,
Oh, wow.
and in October I went on a concert in London. I arrived early because I wanted a good seat, and the whole place was empty,
Oh, wow.
except for this one man sitting in the middle of the room. And I took a look at him. I thought he looked quite nice. And I went and I sat next to him. Do you
You had the
imagine?
whole place to choose from.
I mean, I broke every social taboo that,
Yeah.
absolutely shocking. But of course, he didn't move away. He was too polite to do that. And I engaged him in conversation. And this is the first mistake. I looked at him, but now we're talking 1965, England, London. And I judged his hair to be too long.
Okay.
It touched the top of his shirt.
It was too long in those days, yeah.
No, in those days, people had it down to their backs. And I decided that moment that if I got to know him any better, I would get him to cut his hair.
Okay. Oh,
So from the very beginning,
you were
I
trying to
decided to
change
try and
him.
change him.
That's interesting,
That was
isn't
the
it?
first time.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
know. So that was mistake number one. Mistake
Yeah.
number two was I went for him. I actually pursued him,
Okay.
and he never stood a chance. And I pursued him, because I was insecure as to my attractiveness, lovability. I wanted to see if I could make him fall in love with me.
If you had the power to do that over somebody else. Yeah.
And I used all those little tips you get in women's magazines.
Oh, right.
So
And
that
it worked.
someone, and it worked.
Mm.
That was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me. It worked. And we got married. We got married in March 66, so not very long, 4 or 5 months, because
Wow.
my work permit was going to run out.
Right.
And so we had to make quick decisions.
Gosh.
So that was the beginning. And looking back, he was an Asperger's personality. So absolutely no empathy, no social skills, absolutely none. And it was really, really difficult. And I tried really hard to get him to love me. The harder I tried.
And he
It was
probably
like,
did in his own way, but when somebody's
yes,
sort of saddled with that kind of, for those that don't know, it's a condition that they consider to be on the autistic spectrum,
yes,
and people are very left brain orientated, and right brain emotionally led. It doesn't really count, does it? So
no,
I know a few of my friends have got children with Asperger's, and a few people I've met in adult life, and you can see the telltale signs. And if you've ever watched a TV program called The Big Bang Theory, the guy called Sheldon has a form of that, and it's very funny, but at the same time very sad, because there are lots of people walking around there that desperately need love, but they don't know how to show it. And
no, they don't. And this is the interesting thing. Years after we parted, I realized that he probably did love me, just not the way I needed to be loved. So I didn't get it.
yeah.
And the same with him, because I kept, trying and trying and trying, and he never felt loved.
Yeah.
But he never expressed it, said it, indicated there was no hint.
So have you come across the, I'm not sure where it started, but there's the 5 languages of love.
Oh, yes.
So from that
Exactly.
perspective, if you look at one of the 5 languages, if you're speaking one language and he's speaking another, from a person who's bilingual, you're not going to actually connect and be able to understand each other, because you're not actually speaking the same language. So
Exactly.
what a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. So 37 years I stayed married.
Yeah. Wow. So it was your choice to leave, or you just both came to
No, it was
mutual?
my choice. With the help of my own coach, I finally found the courage to leave.
Wow.
I thought it fills me with horror. Is that without him, I still might be married? No.
No, you'd have come to that
I
conclusion
wouldn't.
eventually, but
we worked, and I refused to talk about my marriage for a long time.
it hurt, I would
But
imagine.
we worked on other things, like developing my self,
Yes.
so that by the time I did have the courage, I was also able to see it through and build a new life.
Yeah. So how did you find your coach?
That's another story.
You're full of them.
Oh, yes. On this particular occasion, I had a friendship that had come to an end, and I was very distressed, and I couldn't figure out why, and I was suffering. And then one day, through the letterbox comes a kind of junk mail sort of thing from the local college.
Right.
And one of the courses was called Communicate with Emotional Integrity. And I thought, I have to go. The title, I have to go. So I sent in my money, and then a few days later, the check came back. The course was cancelled, lack of interest. And I'm
Wow.
going, no, 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 no. You know the saying, when you're ready, the teacher appears. I'm not quite sure
Yes.
how it
Yeah.
goes. So, so I put on my detective cap, and I tracked him down, and it turned out he lived in Nottingham, and I lived in London, and he lived in Nottingham.
Quite a way. Yeah.
So before I explain any more, the kind of person I used to be was only the 5 senses were real. Nothing else existed.
Right.
So anyway, I phoned him, And I said, when are you coming to London? I would like to talk with you. He says, I'm not coming to London. But you must. I'm
I
sorry,
said
I'm
so.
not coming to London. So I kept phoning regularly. And one day he said, I'm coming to London.
Ah,
And then he asked a question that, with the benefit of hindsight, was most unusual for him. He asked, what would you like me to bring? And I said, just bring your body. I don't know why. I feel I have to talk with you. Isn't that weird? And he said, it's not weird at all. It happens to me all the time. And I said, but it doesn't happen to me. And he said, well, it just did, didn't it? And that was the
yeah.
beginning.
Oh, lovely.
That was the beginning.
So it's amazing because in the UK, I very rarely come across people that search out for a coach. It's kind of like they get talking to somebody and they go, well, you're really interesting. And actually, I think it might be useful. And shall we have a chat? And then you kind of end up having a client coaching relationship. But most people don't look, I've had this issue in my life and I need to go and find someone to help me support, to get through it. And I'm upset. I need to work through it. And you were at that stage at that point that you realized you were working on yourself, weren't you? You'd actually come to that point where you realized that you needed to work on yourself.
That's right.
And you basically were searching for happiness, I guess. That was the bottom line.
That it was the bottom line, but I didn't know how to articulate it in those days.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing is because I was still married.
Right.
At the time. In fact, I was 56
right.
when we first met.
Okay.
So no social skills, lukewarm friendships, bad marriage.
Wow.
And I always thought everybody else was to blame.
Of course, it always is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend once and I said to her, how are you? She said, I'm fine. It's all the others that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you should have a little look at yourself. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you see that in your life? So as a human at that point, having convinced a man to love her and then realized that she's still not happy in this marriage, and then you've asked someone to support you and help you in understanding why it's going on, did you have a massive revelation? Did you have a transformation, or was it this slow growth?
It was a gradual, and very slow thing. One of the things before I met Alan was my health was very, very poor.
Okay.
I had the most severest of pains. When I say severe, and on one occasion I ended up on crutches.
Ooh.
It was so painful. And I had bulimia.
Oh.
And the way I explain it is the only reason I'm here today is because I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
most people wouldn't ask for help. Bulimics refuse, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But I really needed the help. My doctor sent me to a therapist immediately. He said this could prove fatal if we don't deal with it straight away. And then eventually I was encouraged to tell Bill, who had no idea. All he saw was me stuffing my face, and then didn't even notice the weight was falling off me, and until I was literally a
skin
stick.
and bones. Yeah.
Never noticed.
Wow.
And his response was, pull your socks up, don't be silly, stuff like that.
So was that a cry for him to notice you, or do you just think it was generally,
no,
I need control, or what was the
control?
Control.
It was the finger was the only way I had control over my body, because I had no control over any other part of my life.
Wow.
So that was the only thing. I felt powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
Where in reality, you're taking the power away from yourself, and you're taking away your very life by continuing to do it.
Yeah.
That's not a good choice.
Absolutely not. But this is what I discovered with the benefit of hindsight, was now, 15 years later or more, my health is the best it's ever been.
Fabulous.
And I have none of the conditions associated with people my age, which, by the way, next Wednesday is 75.
Woohoo! 75.
And I'm so excited. I'm
Party.
so excited.
Lovely.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
So much, and I think it's to do with poor relationships can affect your physical health and well-being.
Massively, yeah.
So
And
it's not just
part of that is your relationship with yourself.
totally.
Because if you think, I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable, nobody cares, and that seeps into your very being, then you're not going to be happy. You're going to feel isolated and alone, and then you're going to get depression. And then all the other, it's like, oh, I've got an ulcer, I'm feeling run down. I can't sleep well. And bit by bit, I don't feel like anything to eat tonight. And you're depriving yourself of good quality sleep, of good nutrition, probably of healthy exercise, and the joy and the endorphins of having fun and laughing and being with good people and giving them hugs. And you don't have to go and find the people in order to have the fun. It's just that's what you end up attracting, because you're in a good space, because you love yourself.
This is now, and what you described was then. It's exactly what I used to be. All of that, not good enough, not attractive enough, none of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you look at your pictures of yourself when you were like 21, 22 and go, wow, I was hot then? You can see yourself in a different light, like it's a different person.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I remember one time I went through a short period of potentially tipping into anorexia. I was very unhappy at work. I was 16. I'd just started my first job. And I went down to about 7.5 stone, which, I'm 5'2". It's not a huge drop, but I should have been about 8 stone something. And so to go down to 7.5, people were noticing. And I remember distinctly looking in the mirror going, if I just lost another 0.5 stone, and now I think back to like 7.5 stone, that was too small for me. 8 stone, 8.5 is okay, but 7.5 was just too small. But my logic, looking in the mirror, going, I could just do another 0.5 stone to get my thighs down a little bit. So I was totally, my mirror image of who I was totally, what do they call it? Dysmorphic. You can't see the real you in the mirror. Right. Because you had no value of yourself. Now my value was wrapped up in the job that I was doing, which I felt like I was invisible. So I was really unhappy. And in the end, I just went, that's it, I've had enough. I'm off. And I left. And then you get over that little hit, don't you? And it's working out what the problem is. But if you love yourself and you know what you deserve, instead of being and just in that image of that physiology of who you are and what you're doing, people respond to you in a different way.
It's true.
So you cannot be this with a head held high when you're feeling like you're unloved or nobody cares about you, or you're ugly, or all the rest of it, and you kind of
lonely, most of all. Lonely.
That's the worst feeling, is when you feel like, especially in a crowded room and no one can see you. You feel invisible. It's a horrible.
I have tipped out of parties more than once.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Okay, so you've now discovered your new you, and you've left your husband, and you're feeling very brave. What was your day job at this point? Were you did you have a profession? Were you just employed by someone? Or
yes, I was a client development executive with the Institute of Directors.
That sounds very posh. What did that mean in real life?
It does. I by the way, I invented the title.
Oh, I like it.
Because I was the first one.
Nice.
In the department who was communicating with directors and senior executives and encourage them to develop professionally.
Oh, okay.
And nobody had done their job before.
Oh, nice. So you invented it. I love it.
And so, we're trying this title, that time. Oh, so we ended up with client development executive, really.
Lovely.
And then there was a team, and then there was, it expanded, but I was the first. Okay. And I was there for 7 years.
Right. And that was one that you loved?
I left in 2006.
Okay. Quite a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Just after I turned 60.
Right.
Which, by the way, I was terrified of that age. Terrified. It took me 6 months to figure out what being 60 meant to me. Nothing.
Love it. Yeah. 6 months is a long time, isn't it? But I'm not quite there yet. I'm how old am I now? 57 now. But it's this it's this thing on the horizon, though, isn't it? It's like, I remember being people saying they didn't want to be 21, they didn't want to be 30, they didn't want to be 40. But I remember distinctly being 35 and going, I'm halfway to 70 and 10. And I haven't done enough with my life. I'm supposed to have done half of it already. I'm supposed to be, really achieved, and I hadn't done anything. And actually, I'd done quite a bit, but it when you've got your dreams out there, it felt like I'd only just done a drop in the ocean. And after that, once I got past 35, everything else was a breeze, really. I'm not too, age is but a number. It's just, so long as you're, as you say, you're physically healthier now than you've probably been any time in your life, you're not going to have any aches and pains. So how old are you going to live to? Have you chosen that number yet?
Yes, I have. Dave and I, who, by the way, we are the same age. We have been together for over 4 years and married last December.
Lovely.
And I love
Beautiful.
saying my
No.
husband. And we have a deal.
Yeah.
And the deal is we're going to live to be 100.
Oh, okay. Just
Good
100.
health and good spirits.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
I've got a thing that I'm 106 is my number. I don't know why, but 106 sounds quite good. So, yeah. Okay, so have you got any little ones, or did you have any children in your life? Any wonderful pets? Or you seem to have so much love to give. I imagine that people that around you would have all the children and the animals, and the people that are good at loving would just be magnetized to come and give you a hug.
This is the interesting thing. I never felt I wanted children. It just never.
Yeah.
And you're right. I feel I have a lot of love to give, but I feel I'm giving it.
Yeah.
It's just not children.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to my friends, and they're the most amazing people.
Lovely.
And it's only after working with Alan that I let go of the socially acceptable mask.
Yes.
To be acceptable and accepted, and a people pleaser, a master people pleaser.
And you think that was from your parents? Did you ever talk to them about that?
Yes, absolutely. I remember my dad actually said that I need to do whatever it takes to get people to like me.
Wow.
Because my safety depended on it.
Gosh, I've not heard that one before. Your safety depended on it.
But if you stop and think for a second, for them it was
true. Yeah, exactly. Because of the Nazis.
Fled Prague, and people, all over, it's like a human chain taking him to safety, him and my mum.
In his world, that was totally true and totally right. But you translate that another 20 years into the future and...
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I just remembered that he impressed upon me is not to trust anybody.
Oh, that's harsh, isn't it? But I get it. No, but I get, again, where he's coming from in his circumstance.
Yeah.
It's harsh. So who's
I
the
broke
first?
every injunction he ever gave me, every single one.
And did you go back and say to him, Dad, this is, I've had to translate what you've taught me and make it fit for me?
No, he didn't live that long, and I didn't have the skills to explain. He died in 1988.
Yeah. Well, he knows. He knows now. He's blessing you now, isn't he?
I do believe that. I do. He knows. He and my mum, and they're thrilled for me.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yes, I know that.
That's fabulous. So, what? Now you've had these wonderful life lessons that many people are stuck in and not actually realise it. So they might be sitting here listening and going, actually, I've never been happy in my marriage. And am I brave enough to leave? Or is the status quo okay? What was it like when you kind of realised, if I don't make a choice, I'm stuck with this for the rest of my life?
It was, well, various things. The main thing that I had was a job. Means that I could support myself.
Yeah.
And there are so many people who stay together because the woman especially has nowhere to go and doesn't have a job.
Yeah.
So I would be irresponsible to encourage them to leave.
Absolutely.
But there are things that can be done. They can learn new skills to improve their marriage. That's number one. This is why I prefer to work with individuals and not couples.
Yeah.
And the woman, usually the woman, because she's the one who's more dependent.
Right.
I mean, I work with men. I mean, I'm generalizing, but mostly it's the woman who learns to get to know herself, like herself, accept herself, respect herself,
Yeah.
and then the skills to improve their relationship, to realize their personal boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
the non-negotiable ones. And then once she's tried everything, and if her partner does not respond, then she
Mm.
will have the strength to
Yeah.
take the next step.
Yeah. I guess why you are specializing, if that's the right word, in helping and supporting women, although as you say you can help men as well. I think in society over the last millennia, probably, being seen as a second-class citizen, it's ingrained in us to be that people pleaser, to be the homemaker,
Yeah.
to be the one that supports everybody else, to be the one that puts yourself second and everybody else in front, to be the one that is permanently guilty because you've never actually done enough. I'm going to work, but I feel guilty because I haven't done the right thing for the kids or my husband at home. There's this ongoing intrinsic reinforcement of you're not top dog here, in this marriage.
Yeah.
There's this
Yeah.
one and there's this one. But on the other hand, because of nature, God bless Mother Nature, as women, we are used to changing and transforming our lives because of the way we physically change. To go through motherhood, to go through menopause, it's all a massive uphill, downhill, emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
So for us, it's easier, I believe, and if you're watching this and you disagree, come and comment on this, but I think it's easier for women to transform themselves into a new being than possibly it is for a man who kind of grows up, goes to work, and that's kind of it. You don't have to. And especially 50 years ago, you'd get a job for life, so you're in that job forever. Well, now I think men are realizing that they're in a job for 3 years, they're in another job for 2 years, they're in another job for 3 years, because we have to be, everything's moving so quickly. But women have the the physical changes as well that we go through.
Yeah.
So I think probably when you understand the nuances of how we feel like or have felt like second-class citizens, and you help people to empower themselves, excuse me, that's a gift that you have got in order to ensure, not necessarily that come to me and I'll help you leave your husband. That's not the conversation.
No.
it's come to me and let me show you your choices and empower you to make good choices.
But you'd be surprised, they have to want to. And when I say that, is I have worked with, fortunately, very few people, and not for very long, who said they wanted to change but wouldn't do the work.
Yeah. Scared though, probably.
And I will not work with people like that.
No.
It's a waste of their time, their money, their energy.
You've got to see some results
but I
from
can't
it.
do it for them.
No. It's a bit like it's a very poor comparison, forgive me, but it's a bit like an alcoholic. You can give them all the tools in the world to move away from their addiction, but they have to be the ones that, and sometimes it means that you've got to leave them so they can hit rock bottom, so they can then go, do you know what, I think I'll do what Sue said. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So now you've empowered yourself through leaving the first relationship, the first husband that wasn't so great, and you're on your own. What was it like being that single woman? Were you like woohoo, or were you like, oh, I don't know if I like this? Was it difficult?
Wonderful.
You made the most of it. Good girl.
Until that point, I had never ever lived alone.
Oh no.
But there was a lot to learn.
I'll bet.
Because I was completely dependent on Jim to change light bulbs and do, all the stuff that most people do. And I had to learn to ask for help.
Yes. Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
That was the toughest. And it's something that I keep having to learn and relearn and relearn and all the time.
I'm not very good at that. People keep telling me, just ask. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. If it's not
too
much.
I don't want to be a burden.
Exactly. And you
have enough on your plate. I don't want to add to it.
But ultimately, most people love to help.
And that's the
Yes,
joy, is when you
yes,
can help someone and they go, oh, thank you so much. You're like, oh, that's okay. No problem. And it's
yeah,
what we live for, isn't it? It's like Christmas.
absolutely. It
Christmas isn't
makes us
about
feel
what you
good.
can get. It's about what you can give, and give somebody that perfect present. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I nailed it because I know them and I love them so much, and I managed to get them the best gift. So
One of
asking
the
for
things
help.
one of the things I urge people to do is those random acts of kindness.
Oh, tell us a random act of kindness that you do
Oh,
then.
it's that's something as simple as smiling at a stranger. Somebody, believe it or not, gave me a flower at the bus stop
Oh,
because I helped somebody cross the road. And
how
she gave me the
lovely.
bunch. Then she went back to Waitrose and bought herself another bunch and gave me a bunch of.
Oh,
It's extraordinary,
that's
you
lovely.
know,
But that
or just
is, yeah, that's amazing.
wonderful. Or just telling a woman I love the color of her hair or
Mm,
something. Just,
mm,
say, oh, nobody mentioned that before.
yeah, yeah.
Just it's things.
I had somebody, was on the tube the other day and going down the escalators, and this lady tapped me on the shoulder, and she was walking down. So I was sort of standing there and we're going down. She's walking down. She tapped me on the shoulder. She went, love that jacket. Really suits you. And she carried on. I'm like, oh, thank you.
I love it. It's
It was really
great.
a highlight of my day.
I
It's just
know,
brilliant. And that's
absolutely.
all she had to say, and that's what I try and do as well. It's the different
Yeah.
things that you can, so somebody holds a door open for me and I'm like, thank you so much. I said, that's your good deed for the day. It's just,
Mm.
you've made my day now, opening the door. And it's like, it's a genuine thank you rather than,
Oh, absolutely.
just the look and okay, thank you. And I did that the other day and I said, that's your good deed for the day. And he was a very dapper gentleman, elderly gentleman. He's opened the door and he did it with a flourish. And I went, thank you so much. I said, that's your good deed for the day. He went, one of many, my darling. I was like, okay.
Lovely. I love it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I must tell you
Yeah.
this one story as well, another good deed. I went to Musée d'Orsay in Paris with some friends, and we went and I wanted to see a particular Monet that was there. It was only on a particular exhibition, but it was packed, and we were walking along like this, and it was just like typical tourists where there's a picture and they move on to the next one, there's a picture and move. It just was losing the joy of the painting. And there
Yeah.
was this another elderly gentleman, and he had a bow tie and he had a little hat, and he was just so gorgeous. And he must have been 80 if he was a day, probably older than that. And he started speaking to me in French, and I'm like, I don't speak French. And I said in my perfect French, I'm sorry, I don't speak French. And he was like, oh, pardon, mademoiselle. I'm like, oh, mademoiselle, I love you already. Pardon, mademoiselle, excuse. And he made everybody move out of the way so that I could enjoy the painting. And I was like,
Oh,
it was so lovely.
lovely.
And then we said, good. It was beautiful. Okay, carry on. Like, he moved them all on again. You can move now. It's okay. But he'd made everybody move out the way so I could see the painting.
Oh,
It just stays with you. I mean, that was years ago, but
yeah.
those little
It's
things
lovely.
make
I feel great. Look at my face. I feel great just hearing it.
us beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we can do that for other people, but we forget, I mean, this little hashtag now is random acts of kindness, isn't it? Or be kind. And it is, what can you do? What can you do every single day? Just think of something that can put a smile on someone's face.
Yeah.
And half the time it's just give them a compliment, acknowledge them, show them that you see them.
Yes.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that's powerful.
When Dave and I got married in December, the vows were gorgeous. They weren't ours.
Oh.
We were the senior registrar said the vows, and they're beautiful. I'm going to tell you because they are so memorable. They are.
Yeah, lovely.
Do you promise to care for Dave, to love him, respect him, be his best friend, share your hopes and dreams with him, and be there for him? I mean,
That's all you need. That's it, really, isn't it?
But it's not just words.
No.
Every single, okay, care for him. What does that look like in practice? And it's, so one of the things, our relationship is special, but it's not so special. I can actually teach people how to have it because there are behaviors. The only thing is to be aware.
Yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
People say you have to work at your relationship. Well, it's fun, to
It's
touch
fun
him
work.
and hug him. unexpectedly. Well, who has more fun, he or me?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to bring a cup of tea when he does, you know, because I know right now to do something for him that I know exhausts him. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many things. Just look at them, and you know what to do.
I just think that the media and Hollywood have given us this illusion of love and marriage that you know, it's like love at first sight, and you fall in love, and then that's it, and you live happily ever after. And well,
No,
the chemistry that people talk about, the energy that they feel, the click that they get when they meet the one, well, yeah, that's great. Lust at first sight, great. You know, you fancy someone and that's it. But the love bit and the depth of the love and the opening up of the huge, enormous reservoir of love that we have in us
yes,
can only be opened when you do all of those things that you've just mentioned.
Exactly.
So it has to
I
be.
mean, I like to say that love is a verb.
A doing word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those, anybody can learn those, but they A, have to be willing, and B, they have to know what they are.
And I think to have that acknowledgement that this doesn't just happen by accident.
And
There is more to it. You do have to work at it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good place to look at this wonderful book that you've got. Open Your Heart, The 7 Secrets of Strong and Loving Relationships. So not only have you experienced it, are you living it, but you've popped it into a book for everyone to be able to have a look at. So one of the things is the costs of unhappy relationships. We haven't touched on that yet. We've looked at the breakdown of your marriage, and that you've kind of acknowledged that I was trying to change him and that wasn't the right way, and also your insecurities, and you've come out again. And of course, now you understand the value of learning from an unhappy relationship. So a friend of mine split up with his wife recently, and he's got a fabulous new girlfriend, and it's all really exciting, and he's very, very happy. I said, so what have you learned from the past one? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, what lessons are you taking? Otherwise, you're just going to do the same thing again. No. It was her fault. Obviously, it was her fault. I was all right. It wasn't me. It was her.
Oh dear.
Actually, yeah. So you can see it's like, oh, well, how long has he got? When did he meet her? You know, you can almost put a timeline on when it's going to go back down that same route again. Sadly.
Yes.
So tell us about your book. If somebody were to read this, what's the takeaway that you want them to get from that?
That you need to take responsibility for your own happiness. That you can take the initiative. In fact, that you have to take the initiative rather than waiting for the other person to take the first step.
Yeah, because it's your happiness, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's your happiness. That you do have the power to change the relationship, but you have to start with yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why I always start with your relationship with yourself, because it colors and shapes all other relationships. So you have to start with yourself. I write about all the mistakes I made because
it's not that big a book. You didn't make that many mistakes. It's not that big a book.
No, but the ones that I made were
the big
really
ones.
big ones. But you see, the great thing is that, and that was part of the coaching, because if you read my previous book, which is my autobiography, I end the book when I turned 60.
Right.
Still blaming Jim for the breakup of the marriage. And it was only a few years after I left that in the coaching, it came up how exactly I contributed. And it was so painful because I thought I was the innocent bystander and he was to blame for everything. Now, I was lucky that he was still alive, Jim, and I wrote him a letter. He was living in Spain by then.
Right.
And I wrote him a letter and asked him to forgive me.
Did you get a reply?
I did get a reply. Okay. First, it was a letter that I sent him, not an email.
Right.
I get an email and he said he got the letter and a positive reply is on its way.
Oh, lovely. That's a definite Asperger's person writing that.
But it healed something in us.
Yeah. Yeah, you can almost,
Yeah.
at some point, for all the upset and the heartache that you went through, there's almost an acceptance of, you spent a long time together, you've got a lot of history together,
Yes.
and whether you end up friends or not, at least you've forgiven each other.
Yes.
And
that
that
was
heals for you then as well, doesn't it?
absolutely.
Mm.
And the other thing was, because although those insights into my contribution were excruciatingly painful, it was also liberating.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing I can change is me.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't do what I used to do. One of the things I'm going to tell you, just one, although
Good.
I mentioned them all in the book, is this intense need to be right.
Oh, yes, I was like that.
At all costs.
Yeah.
At all costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting,
and I have to
isn't
tell you
it?
a secret. To my dismay, I discovered there is still some of that in me. Fortunately, I noticed in time.
You have to pull yourself back, don't you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was like,
No.
Stop. Yeah.
But me and my husband, we've been together since 1977 as a couple. We got married in 84. So I don't know how many years that is. You do the maths. But if we hadn't done personal development individually and together, we wouldn't have the strength of the marriage that we have now. We would just be coexisting probably in the same house. And we didn't necessarily have a breakdown in order to go through that. It was just, we were on a journey individually and we both were kind of in parallel, and then we kind of came together. And I did acknowledge to him not that long ago that when we were first together, because I was always right in my head, it's like, oh, he's the idiot and I'm right, he's wrong, which is a massive barrier. I didn't realize at the time, but I intrinsically thought that what I thought up here, he could hear. I know it sounds really crazy, but it's like, don't you know what's going on in my head? Don't you understand? Don't you know me? If you knew me, you'd know what I was thinking.
And if you loved me, you would know.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it awful?
Oh, yes.
And you say it out loud and you're like, oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. So we had, over the years, you look back and you're like, wow, that was unnecessary. We didn't have to go through that kind of pain. But the love was always there. So we were always working on how to get it back. But now, because we've done the work on ourselves, it's a breeze. And you can't say forever. You've still got to carry on working. You can't go, oh, we're done now. We've done that course. We've done that. It's fine. You still have to work at it.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yes.
But the rewards are huge.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So it must be lovely for you when you work with couples or individuals and they come back to you and go, oh, the marriage is fine now, the marriage is working, or no, I've left him, or I've left her. But even if it's a breakdown of a marriage, presumably you see a person that grows before your very eyes.
Yes. And that there's nothing like it. I love coaching. Love it. I do.
After all the years of doing things that your dad thought you should do and being a secretary, you've kind of found your niche now, haven't you? But you couldn't have gone into that at the age of 21. You had to have that pain to come out the other end and understand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I do
21, 31, 41, 51.
Yeah. And I think there are some young coaches out there, and you don't have to have gone through the pain to empathise with people's situations. But I think when you're talking to someone who's just helping you unpack your head and your heart, but when you know that they've been and experienced something like what you're going through, the empathy is profound.
Yeah.
And you're not sitting there going, oh, I know, oh no, I had that, oh no. You're not joining them on their journey of feeling sorry for themselves. You're breaking those bonds and you're taking them away so that they can grow.
Yeah. Hope. There is a better way. There is.
Yeah. And the better way isn't necessarily a different way. Sometimes it's exactly where you are, but you just need to communicate more effectively.
How? Learn how to communicate. Yeah. It's not as easy as it sounds.
So when someone comes to see you, is there a kind of 6 sessions and you're done and we've nailed it, or is it a kind of ongoing journey to see what they need from you?
We have a free consultation, a free conversation where they tell me what they're feeling about themselves, what they're feeling about their lives, what they're feeling about their relationships,
Mm.
and how they would like to feel instead. So we
Yeah,
have,
that's
and I
nice.
can explain what I can do and what I need from them. It's a partnership.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
partnership.
And what's lovely is it's all very well going to your best friend and asking if they can help you, but they're too close to the situation, aren't they?
Exactly. And they have an agenda. And
Mm.
friends don't really want you to change.
That's a really good quote.
Mm,
That's true, because
yeah.
they like what they know.
Well, exactly.
Mm.
And also because they see themselves in context. When I was fat, and I was very, very fat at
Were
one point
you?
in my life, due to
Ah,
depression, comfort eating,
right.
severe comfort eating.
Oh,
Anyway, then one day I went on a diet, and it took me 9 months to get rid of 2 stone.
wow.
And you wouldn't believe the hostility.
Wow.
And I've been dumped. I've been dumped,
Wow.
and tried, oh, you can, piece of cake, you know how you like chocolate. You can start tomorrow again. It's not mm,
Yeah.
kind of,
Sabotage.
mm, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, it's
but by
true
then
though.
it doesn't matter because you've moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, so it's not just a marriage relationship, is it? It's every relationship.
Friendships, yeah. I mean, I have people who are complaining about their friends. And
Mm.
when I say, why are they still in your life? Oh, we've known each other forever.
History.
So
Mm.
what is
Yeah.
it? You know?
I always have the opinion that you don't necessarily have to cut people out, but you just take a little step back so that you're not influenced, or you can see them and you can talk about the good old days, but you don't see them every week. You don't necessarily see them every month. Maybe twice a year is enough, or whatever it
More
is.
than enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
And surround yourself instead with people who love you and support you
for who
and
you are.
believe in you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
famous line. Uh, oh gosh, what was the film? Where he said, "I love you just the way you are." Oh, I can see the. Anyway, it's gone. It's gone.
But I like it. I love you just the way you are.
Yeah,
That is
and
the
that's
word.
because she was wearing a ridiculous jumper, and they were at a party, and he was wearing a ridiculous Christmas jumper, and they kind of looked at each other as though, and he said, like, the minute I saw you, he said, "I love you just the way you are," and she's like, "Oh, I was the first person that's ever said that to me," and it meant something because you didn't have to
Yeah.
pretend, you could be ridiculous.
Acceptance.
Mm,
Acceptance.
that's beautiful.
Mm.
So
Oh.
Sue, this has been a lovely conversation.
Oh, I so
It,
enjoyed it.
it's fantastic. If we were to share with our community, who are the sort of people that you can help? Do you want to just kind of, in a nutshell, give us, I mean, you've obviously explained marriages and things, but just give us a nutshell who you'd love to be able to support and help if they wanted to come to you.
Um, Apart from the fact from like everybody,
Yeah, not going to say that.
I like women over 50, women who have experienced poor relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps even more than once, and they want to stop. They want to do it differently next time,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how.
Yeah.
So that's one. Single women who want to um, know how to choose the right partner for them,
Mm.
and people in unhappy relationships, not abusive relationships, but maybe emotional neglect or something,
Mm.
and show them how they can improve it
Mm.
by first changing themselves and then working on their relationship, and the fact that they are willing to take the initiative
Mm.
rather than wait for the other person to change.
Yes. Yes. And I think a lot of people feel like that. It's like, well, they're being this way, and if I can't change them, then it's always going to be the same. But actually, when you change yourself and you start reacting in a different way, it's amazing how the other person then starts to make
Extraordinary.
changes. It's
And it's
lovely.
not
Yeah.
such huge changes either.
Mm.
Sometimes it's a minor change, and the response is out of all proportion.
Yeah.
Not always, but it can happen.
One of the classics I was talking to somebody about the other day is, when you meet with certain people in your life, you end up moving back into the type of person you were when you first knew them. So a classic example is if you go around to see your parents, you become a petulant teenager because that's, and they don't see you as a grown-up, so you fit into the role model that you've always done, and therefore you come away going, we've had another argument, how did that happen? Well, I'm a grown-up, why am I doing this? And it's the same in any relationship, really, isn't it? So when you start changing, they start changing how they see you. That's and their behavior changes to the way. So it might be the first couple of times when you're slightly different. So a classic example is my husband went on a personal development course, and the day after, something happened in our relationship that I thought, oh, we're going to go down that road again. So I then behaved as I would normally behave. So a quick example is that I had left the keys in the door. So what happened? I'd gone to work, forgotten something, come back, quickly put the keys in the door, got in, got it, got back in the car, drove off, left the keys in the door. He was still at home. He's gone to go to work, seen the keys in the door, taken the keys out the door, locked up and everything, and then rang me up and said, you left the keys in the door. So I went on automatic pilot. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't realise. Oh, how stupid of me. I didn't know I was supposed to. Oh, for goodness sake, what am I like? Because I knew that placates him from going, well, honestly, we could have had a burglar in there, we could have, and all of the things, because he had to be right and I had to be right. So we worked out this kind of dance that we did. And so I'm doing all the, oh no, I didn't realise, oh, for goodness sake, oh, silly me. And he went, so, whoa, what? You just left the keys in the door. Just letting you know. There were no recriminations. And I'm like, whoa. You went on a course. Because he'd understood the principle of story. So normally when he'd seen this, it's like, oh, Jill, she always does this. This is because of that. I've got to look after her. And all of these things that he had put in place, which weren't true at all, but he was reinforcing it and I was living up to it. And then just that by him going, you just left the keys in the door. I'm just letting you know.
You cut across.
Massively. And it was like,
powerful.
Whoa. And then of course other things, it's like this snowball effect. Once you kind of nailed that, it's like everything goes, and then we become different people to each other, and you can live into that new relationship that you're developing. So
oh, I love listening what you have to say. It's so important. It reflects a lot of my experience, you see.
Exactly. And that's why what you do is so powerful. So coming to Collaboration Global, and obviously we want to invite people along to meet people like yourself, because what we're collecting are people that are specialists in what they do, whether they be an accountant or a web designer or a relationship expert, a specialist. So understanding that people can come along, come to our meetings, can meet you on our platform online, can have a chat with you. So if they come to Collaboration Global on our Mighty Network, fantastic, they can find you there. Or if they want to connect with you at one of our meetings, you can go onto Eventbrite and look for Collaboration Global. How else is the best way for them to contact you if they wanted to go direct to you?
Our website, and send me a text, send me an email.
What's your your website address?
SuePlumtree.com.
Oh, how easy. So that's SUE. For those who haven't, we will put this on at the end, but SuePlumtree.com. Nice and easy. They can get through to you straight away that way. Presumably the email address is the same. Is it Sue@SuePlumtree.com?
Yes.
Nice and easy. Lovely. And presumably the first off is just a conversation to see how you might be able to help.
It's free. It's just an exploratory thing. And it's absolutely no commitment. It's just they can ask me questions. I can ask them questions.
Lovely. How can they get hold of this wonderful book? Where have you got that?
Amazon.
There we go. Open Your Heart, The 7 Secrets of Strong and Loving Relationships. I would imagine by the time you've read that, you're going to feel like you know Sue inside out, and you're going to want to contact her anyway.
But they have exercises in there. So they can answer some of the questions for themselves.
And that's powerful, isn't it? Because if you're both committed to it, or if you're both ready to go, or even if you just want it for yourself, to kind of, it's a bit like a spa for the mind and the heart. Because if you're spending time just reevaluating who you are by answering some of those questions, then you're the one that can change, and then your partner or your friend or whatever relationship difficulty you're having can go, what's going on? You're different. And they'll spot it. They'll see it a mile off.
But you know what's amazing? Most people don't know themselves. They don't know themselves. They just focus on the things that are all wrong, and their insecurities and their limiting beliefs and critical mindset and all that stuff. There's so much they don't know about themselves.
Yeah.
So helping them to get to know, even they don't know what it takes for them to feel loved in a relationship. They don't know, or how their partner needs to feel loved in a. They don't know any of that.
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
And you know what? Even if you think you do, you probably don't.
Yeah,
there'll be things along the way that
assumptions. Yes. Yeah.
You would have loved yesterday's meeting, which was Gina Gardner talking about radical responsibility and being radically aware of your thoughts, which turn into your etc. etc. But that's a whole other story. That's a whole other podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, Sue. It's been an absolute delight. I've really had a lovely time. And hopefully the people that have been listening can get a better idea of if they're in that awkward, if you've got a relationship that's just like a pebble in the shoe and it's not quite working, get in touch with Sue, get hold of her and have that conversation, because you might think it's impossible, there's nothing I could do. But I guarantee you Sue will be able to find a way forward. So that would be brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.